I think we're just going to start. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bas. I'm here with Janne.
Welcome.
We started together 2.5 years ago at Climate Neutral Group. So that's more than 10% of the 20 years. And that's good. It's because of us that Climate Neutral Group still exists. But for real, we've seen some stuff. We're now 60 people at Climate Neutral Group. When we started, it was 15. And now we have a thesis group, so it's quite interesting times. We're both consultants at Climate Neutral Group, working in the food or mostly for the food industry. And today we're going to talk about building resilience through sustainability in your value chain. And we're going to look at the coffee at least. So I just had coffee, or I still have coffee. Who drinks coffee? Some people don't, some people do. Most people do. And in 20 years, still coffee? Or anyone quitting because of climate impact? I see some hands that are thinking maybe I'm going to quit or maybe after what we tell you today, you're going to quit coffee because it's a nightmare. No, it's going to be fine, hopefully.
Well, I think we hope to invite you as well to find solutions for today that maybe, hopefully you will be able to drink coffee still in 20 years, but maybe we're talking about crisis. We may be also in a coffee crisis right now. Well, some famous quotes from Illy that are saying that people want to drink more coffee, apparently, but the surface on which we can grow coffee will actually decrease by half, same as EDB says. And when we look at the map, we can even actually see that. So, well, the green one is increased areas because thanks to climate change, maybe we also have some areas where we can grow coffee where we couldn't grow it before. But red one is so far coffee areas that will not be able to grow coffee in the future anymore. And I see much more red. I don't know, maybe some color problems here, but for sure there's much more red on the slide, so on the map. So we will have a problem of decreased area of coffee. And so coffee is impacted by climate change, but we would like to ask you actually also talking about what actually is the coffee footprint. What is the impact of coffee on climate change? And we invite you to go to Menti.
I think I should. There we go. It's on the top. 66253084. And that's the number for the rest of the session, I think.
Nice. I think we have either a public that cannot choose or a very informed public, because it's true. All three of them are correct. And we used some examples because then we wanted to make it a bit more tangible. But you see that here.
Oh, sorry.
Can you go to my... what is more or less in between, we can say, like, it really depends on what type of coffee you drink. And maybe here, as an example, we used an espresso cup, a normal beans coffee, or a coffee that actually comes from, for example, Indonesia, where a lot of deforestation takes place, and maybe that brings us directly to the topic, how is actually the coffee value chain?
Yeah, so all three is true, and for some cups of coffee, a combination of all three is true. So what we see generally is that coffee, and then I'm taking it back a little bit to to transparency, what Volkert said in before lunch. So maybe some people already forgot it, but he talked about both organically grown crops, and that there's no sustainability without transparency. And the coffee value chain is a little non-transparent. We see a lot of, basically this is it. So you could say it is transparent. Has anyone seen this process before, or knows the coffee process? Who of you is working in the coffee industry? Some of them. So I'm going to quickly go through it. Coffee starts with a plant, a berry actually, and then on the farms, and the farms are in different countries. You of course saw Brazil. We all know coffee from Brazil, Vietnam, Ethiopia. On the farm it gets processed, it gets fermented, then it gets transported to a roasting and grinding and packaging plant. And we have one in Utrecht, but we don't grow coffee in Utrecht. So that's an interesting one. And now I lost my screen.
It's back.
Oh, it's back. Oh, that's great. So then packaging comes along, and there's a difference, and that's also part of the difference between the coffee that's 1 kilometer by car and the coffee that's one slice of bread with cheese, is the packaging, especially on carbon emissions. Then there's distribution, consumption. Consumption is an interesting one because some people boil 1 liter of water to get 1 cup of coffee, and other people have an espresso machine and there's a small bit of water boiled each time. And then what do you do with the rest, with the packaging and with everything else? So that's basically the coffee chain. It's quite easy. But looking at this and linking it back to transparency, that's the interesting one. Where do you think, or what do you know about your cup of coffee? Or what do you know least about your cup of coffee? So please go back to your phones again. And I want to ask you the question, which part of the value chain is the least transparent? So what don't you know? And I think it's the same website as where you just were with the same numbers. And then the previous question is still on there, but if I do this, there we go.
Well,
sorry? In general. Right, I see farm level on number 1.
but it's interesting. So apparently, consumption is 4th, and below is even transport and distribution. So you know more about how your coffee came to the Netherlands than how you consumed it? What?
Hey, who voted farm level? Yeah, that's probably, it represents that. That's good. Does anyone want to, do you know where your coffee comes from? The country? Most of the times maybe on the packaging. Do you choose that? Sometimes a blend, yeah. But do you choose the country, or do you do? Do you want to share something about it? Why do you choose?
Well, I order my coffee online on Lezen, and they have coffee from different regions, and I do Ethiopia because I've been there, and that's the other one.
That's good. Yeah, if you've been there, you want from it, or you.
How many of you have been to a coffee farm? Well, really? So many. I've never been to a coffee farm. I think, but maybe we have also a quite selected public.
Yeah.
I guess most of the people that drink coffee have never been to a coffee farm.
No, I guess so as well. Thing is, farm level is please remember this. Most of you voted farm level as the most vague one or the least transparent one. And then end of life is an interesting one. Who drinks Nespresso cups? Who recycles their Nespresso cups? 3 out of 4. Or 4 out of 5. That's more than the 10% that gets recycled in average. So that's crazy, right? You get a bag of Nespresso from Nespresso, and you can bring it back to Nespresso, and only 10% of the people do that. That's an interesting one. Hey.
But then I'm interested also that actually least ones are transportation and distribution. What do you think, what you know about the transportation and distribution? Maybe a volunteer.
That it comes in by ship, mainly.
Yeah. True. True that.
Yeah, so that's again somewhere farm level, country of origin. Yeah, no, that's it's good. It's good. So, but the thing is, we can say there's a lot of non-transparency in the chain. Hey, and if we translate transparency and sustainability, and we like to look at carbon emissions or GHG emissions, what step has the highest GHG emissions? Do you think? All right, I see a top 3 coming along. Roasting, grinding, packaging, and
Takes a lot of energy to roast, it's true.
Yeah, but thinking, because it's 3 things, of course, so that's maybe making it easier to choose it. Who thinks roasting, grinding, packaging, and then the process of packaging or the packaging itself? So the packaging itself? Okay. Yeah. So roasting as the biggest one probably, and then transport, and then farm level emissions. And again, this changes per type of coffee.
Any volunteer who wants to explain why he chose the ranking?
No?
No problem. There's no wrong answer.
Hey, let's look at the theory a little bit, because this is what the carbon footprint of coffee looks like.
And then we have to analyze a bit of colors. But we start with the green part, actually, that is, and we call that with a difficult term, land use change, which actually means that for growing coffee there was forest before and it has been cut. So we could talk about deforestation. Then we look at the cultivation and processing level. And altogether we call that, again, farm level or country of origin. And then, of course, the orange part, the roasting, grinding, and packaging. And actually, when we look at it already, we see that it's not so big, the bar. We have the packaging material, and there we have to, in gray, and there we have to differentiate. Because we have, as we said before, different types of coffee. Looking at a normal drip filter coffee that is packed maybe in a plastic bag, where actually there's also quite a lot of material on it again, but let's say for simplification it's a plastic bag. Or looking at an espresso cup from aluminium. And here comes again a big share of the packaging, but still not the biggest. Consumption in red is then again a big part, because as Bas said, maybe some of you said 1 liter, or even with a mocha, you have to turn on your stove. It still needs energy to make a little bit of cup of coffee. But still what we actually want to look at is the farm level. And here we asked the question before, what do you actually know on farm level? And I'm actually really surprised that a lot of you went on coffee farms. Do you also know how it was grown? Do you know the farmer? well, I think. And can I ask you how did you do you know now? Do you want to tell more about it?
By accident, because we went on an excursion and we got a whole explanation of how coffee is grown, how it's grinded. We roasted ourselves. We got the whole thing.
Cool.
Spent the day there. It was really cool.
And
Yeah,
your daily cup of coffee? And your daily cup of coffee?
It doesn't come from there, no.
So I think
It was a very small grower.
yeah.
We took some home and
It finished at a certain point. Well, I think it's very impressive and very nice that you saw it. But I guess then when we look at the actual cup of coffee that we drink daily, we don't know from which farm it is. And I try to make it nice. I hope you see the dilemma that we have here, actually. We have, on the one part, from our cup of coffee, very high emissions on farm level. But if we really think about where does this coffee come from, we might have seen a coffee farm, we may have an idea of coffee growing, but we actually don't know from this specific cup of coffee. So there's a very low transparency. But yeah.
I have a question. If you know this is the highest impact, then how come they're not transparent? Because I assume you need some transparency to know their
Yeah, a very nice question. Thank you. Yes, of course, we know and we don't know because we take databases basically. And we know that someone that have visited a coffee farm before has measured it once and has measured the coffee growing in a specific country and has measured it once to have an idea, and this we extrapolate to all other coffees. So we actually still make an estimation. But I think this estimation is good enough to say still that highest emission are from farm level. So yes, we have this dilemma, and actually what we want to achieve is, I hope that is kind of clear, it looks then nice, and we go to another side where we actually, maybe not as a coffee consumer, but then looking a bit more back in the value chain, looking also at coffee roasters, for example. Yeah.
Creates also a sort of economic dilemma for the smallholder farmer who only gets less than 10 cents worth of your cup of coffee you pay here. So the distribution of wealth, where the farmer is the creator of the coffee, does not even have a living income.
Yeah.
And so on that note, the distribution of wealth is very much relevant.
Yeah.
To tackling the transparency.
Very nice that you already come with one of the solutions. And true, and I was even thinking also of like Thomas Rau's nice drawing with all the cannot only be applied to materials. We could call coffee also a material that comes from the earth, but I think you're right. We have to take care of the where value is created and where actually the wealth is taken, let's say. Yeah. So what I would like actually, because, and this is also a dilemma for us, we work with coffee clients and we talk with them, well, I actually was out for some time, but now I'm back and we really see that as the challenge for coffee roasters that know their coffee supply chain and know that they want to reduce, but they actually don't have even they don't have a touch with their farms. If you know that coffee is bought like the stock market. It's on a really big level, and a lot of roasters don't know where their coffee is actually coming from. So how you know that your biggest share of your footprint is coming from an area that you actually don't know about, or that maybe ignore in that sense. So we would like to invite you actually, because it would be very easy if we present you the solution.
Yeah. No, the question is, and I think that Volkert mentioned it, and I'm gonna just say it again. The problem with this is if you don't have that transparency, so you don't know that small coffee farmer, you cannot help or work together with reducing the emissions. And with the knowledge of the database data, you know that the highest impact is probably on farm level, or most of the times on farm level, especially if you say, okay, I cannot really influence my consumer more than my farmer. If you know that, then it would be great to be able to reduce on that. And if you keep working with secondary data or keep having to work with those secondary data, you cannot really reduce on the farm level footprint. So if we know the farm level is one of the bigger ones, and we say you all are coffee traders, I know 1-2 people are, or at least coffee sellers. How do you make sure that you can drink some coffee in 20 years? I'm gonna switch the Mentimeter to the next slide as well, because I'd love to know what you think. Please think as a coffee producer, how can we reduce? How can we reduce the carbon footprint of that supply chain?
And if you don't like coffee, you can also think broader, because I think coffee is an example, but we have other problems. If you drink tea, I think we have a similar picture here.
Right, I see some parts on relationships with farmers. So go to the farms, make a long-term relationship with that farmer, but also make it more expensive. Who came with make it more expensive? Yeah?
It was not my answer, but pay for the true price.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and make sure that true price also.
That the coffee traders pay, I don't know, 3-4 times they pay now.
For all coffee or for more sustainable coffee?
For a true price coffee. So not the way you with economic use balance or power of a big trader and a small coffee farm. It's not. I mean, it's like the giant against the small.
And how would you make sure then that they reduce? That in the total, the impact of coffee is reduced?
I have a question about this. If you make it more expensive, then you would also pay the small coffee holder, coffee growing holder, a livable wage. Wouldn't that incentivize for more people to grow coffee? But it doesn't address how you reduce the greenhouse gases on the farm level. And I would be very curious to know what is
The solution.
what is the main reason that greenhouse gases are so high on the farm level? Because even if you would make it more expensive, that's not giving the.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that would be a combination of that long-term relationship together with fair pricing. So you get paid more, but not necessarily because you need to earn more, but also to be able to incentivize you to reduce on use. And probably I think there's also some education. I think I saw that as well, or was it in my head?
I think that was from your previous session I went to, actually. So we can. I think that's a very good step to start. Okay, we say true pricing, but then also Hilke said actually educating. And I just learned from the previous session that sustainability starts as a mindset, maybe also Thomas Rau said that. But so I think that's very nice ideas. Anyone that knows really more about and you said you went to coffee farms, so do you know how it really looks like, what else is grown there? What is grown actually there, and how is it grown? Can that also be a part of the solution?
I think I see soil regeneration.
You see a lot of monocultures, so they only grow coffee, but you have your land 12 months a year. So if you get, on the one hand, also diversify crop and diversify your income with it, then you are more economically using your land without, and then per coffee bean you would minimize the greenhouse gas that can be allocated to one coffee bean because you grow more crops to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Anna.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, I think it is all a bit out of you to my answer, but I put agroforestry because coffee by nature is a shadow plant. So when you combine different crops together, then maybe that's a way that you can prolong the life of the trees and have coffee for more years.
I hear already, it's very nice. I think it's so nice to see just, actually I just said I don't know the solution. Of course we have some ideas, but actually you said a lot of solutions already. So
I see a lot
Do
of
you-
solutions. I didn't know I could scroll down. Thank you. Now, what I feel is that a lot of solutions, like single solutions, can be chained together as their own type of value chain.
that's
And
what I wanted to say.
sorry.
Nice.
And that's exactly what I think our solution would be. To really, and that's for every consumer product, I think, and for everything that we discussed today, is try to work together and create a relationship, translate your supply chain to a value chain. So keep creating value towards the consumer, but also on the way back towards the farmer.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessary that you really, and that was the example, that you really know the specific farm of your cup of coffee, but it can already start and have an understanding to really talk with farmers. Maybe they are not the farmers, but be on a table. And I think there are also, now I don't want to make advertisement, but within CNG starting projects that are really looking at farm level, let's say, and also trying to get this in the picture, because for us it often seems quite far away, but then also to, and then we come back to the true price, maybe give incentives for the ones that are able to invest on farm level on a bigger scale. And if we are then even going further, maybe even be able to use that to reduce their CO2 footprint. And I think that's another thing that we are talking about. Then we're coming actually to another level that looks not in the value chain, but also looks at the person next to you, let's say. Or in that case, it might be a concurrent, but I think, do we want to be competitive on sustainability if we know that we all have to find a solution together? So I think that would be another approach that I think we are even also trying to incentivize to work together also as a sector.
Would this work? Your Nespresso and JDE working together to create value together as competitors? Yeah? Why?
I have something in my head that's still spinning, and there's a big social issues with the farmers. So they don't have their future taken care of. Their sons, they don't want to be the farmer because their father can't make a living. So we have, it's not only the climate, that's why we have less coffee. Farmers will stop. There's no future for farming coffee. So when you think about, well,
Yeah.
That is not acceptable, not anymore.
I hope that it will change in the future, let's say. Yeah, and thank you for adding this feature, because I think as a climate neutral group, we like to look at climate issue, of course, but it goes together. And what I would think, if you are able to tell to your child, okay, we can make your coffee farm again profitable, and we can make it in a way that you enjoy actually growing the coffee, maybe there will be also less percentage of coffee sons and daughters that don't want to be farmers anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think from someone who works within a sector approach, I work for Volvo Trucks, and we've seen in the last time that it is definitely possible to identify areas of investment, for example, that are mutually beneficial for all parties involved without sacrificing any of your proprietary information, for example. So for us, we've invested in a public charging network with our biggest competitors because we don't make it, of course, to sell the trucks, but our financing them.
Yeah.
We see that as part of the sector that we can always identify parts of the value chain where you can, as a sector partner, invest in.
Very nice example. I think that, yeah, it's not only the coffee sector, of course, indeed. There are a lot of sectors that could work together a bit more, let's say, to achieve something bigger together, that you would actually just look at yourself when you don't start talking.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, it's, for the coffee, it's interesting because there's so much overlap in countries, in transport, in even the roasting and the packaging and stuff like that. And right now everyone wants to be the first, but why not be the first together? And I think that's one of the important ones, and I think the value chain one is, on a smaller scale, an important one. And I think that those two solutions are for us the two that we want to dive in with our clients.
Is there not a current group or consolidation between organizations like this? And you look at some of these names, and we got, sorry, I work with Anthesis work with all these. They don't. There's no collaboration between these organizations in terms of how they can support their value chains.
Well, actually,
I find that just remarkable that they're not collaborating, because with collaboration comes innovation, and that's where long-term support.
There is a small collaboration going on, especially towards the climate neutral program that we have in the Netherlands, or that we're trying to put down. But not globally, and not the bigger ones are really their own big organization. And I think in different sectors, what you say for Volvo Trucks, it works.
Is that because it's a commodity? Because essentially, if you start to, I don't know, look at farming, and then the farmer then has to pay price to them, do certain things in order to make sure that their soil is more fertile longer term. Wouldn't they then have to raise the cost of their beans, essentially? And then that raises the cost of the beans that are being picked in bags by at the distribution and the packaging area, because it is a commodity, isn't that? Because that's how I sort of picture it. Is that you're putting beans in some bags, I guess, on either the back of a truck or a horse, taking it to a area where it's then chosen by pickers from a certain organization, and then they sell it off to the likes of JD or Nespresso.
that's how it often works, I think. It is a commodity, and of course there are also initiatives on, but I don't see them really on the big brands in working on sustainability together. Yeah.
Well informed, the value of coffee is getting higher when it's roasted. And the roast is because they do it in Europe. So they have the source in Africa and America, or South America. And then it has a less value and it's very commodity, so you don't have any say in the price you're getting. It's free market. And then the editing is in Europe. I saw now a nice proposition
Nice. And actually, we were talking about it. Why it's not happen more often? Because through roasting, you also decrease weight, and you even don't have to transport that much anymore.
Yeah, so
That-
you're but I guess the knowledge that these parties have in Europe and the US and then every Western country that they're in with their roasting facilities, if they put that knowledge, or if they move that knowledge instead of the water that gets moved by.
But that's a totally different business case.
Yeah.
Your factories in Europe and you want to do the roasting in Africa, all the political, that is a very big step
yeah.
to treat that whole sector can.
I feel like it's just a collective responsibility.
Yeah, and
Who's taking responsibility for these, as you mentioned, farmers in their generation with their sons and their grandsons, their granddaughters, and I mean, it's shocking. It's actually shocking. I thought certainly there must be some global organization helping, or them working together. At least each member from JDE and Espresso is part of the committee doing something. But the fact that they're not
if you know, let me. Yeah. There are some, but
I'll do some research.
Wondering how, because you hear a lot
And-
about if your coffee, I like coffee, so fair trade certification, for example, how does that fit into that debate?
I think here's the first step in a idea of a better pricing, let's say. Yeah, but fair trade is only looking at that, but not more on. So then we have the social part, but not as much the environmental part. Yeah, yeah. And there are also starting. So it's nice that you come up with solutions, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Very good, very good. No, yeah. So it's a global issue, of course, and there are organizations. So you have the Rainforest Alliance, of course. You have the Fair Trade. But does it always seep down to the farm level, or is it just an extra cent that you pay? That's always the question, and I think that's where that transparency comes in again. And small farmers versus big organizations it doesn't always work together that well, especially if you have all types of blockchain stuff and things to look back and track and trace everything. But I think the first step is that transparency together with those global certifications and making sure that both the value chain is optimized as well as the collaboration between the big corporations and smaller corporations as well. And I think only then we can have that coffee in 20 years, and I'll be there to hopefully enjoy it. And with that, I think that it's time to wrap up.
Yeah, actually, I don't know. No one was tracking the time, but I hope you enjoyed the session, and I hear that you have a lot of ideas and information. So we are happy also to maybe collaborate from Amthesis. So welcome. Thank you very much. Would be nice. And enjoy the day so far, and we are still here I'm happy to discuss about it as well.